Season 3, Episode 1. This episode is called Seed. So it starts out with them all, like, trying to get into a house. And they're, like, making sure there aren't any walkers in there or anything like that. And we see that Carl has become much better with a gun, and that Carol is much more combative in terms of, like, she's not as, like, helpless now. Mm-hmm. And we see that Lori is super pregnant.
Yeah, her belly button is, like, pushing all the way out. Yeah, she's, like, really, really heavily pregnant.
So, it's obvious that, like, quite a bit of time has passed. But according to the wiki page, from the end of Season 2, the beginning of Season 3, it's been 8 months. Mm-hmm. Which is just an absurd amount of time, considering they've stayed in basically a 3-mile radius this whole time, because they haven't found the prison, which is their next destination, which we saw at the end of Season 2 was, like, incredibly close. Like, 3 miles is probably, being a little too
little generous. Yeah. It's... Okay. 8 months...
2/3 of a year.
Yeah, they've been walking around in circles, doing essentially nothing, because they've just been, like, barely surviving. Mm-hmm. They've, like...
And they do
Rick
say,
is a terrible leader.
And they do
clearly.
say, like, we can't go this way because of this herd.
Right.
We can't go this way because of this herd.
But at the same time... Okay, if you can't find somewhere relatively secure to just, like, have a base in that much time,
especially
then
when your wife
just
is
doing
pregnant.
a bad job, because like, seemingly they've just been going, like, from house to house. They've just been kind of wandering around, like, with no plan other than avoiding walker herds, which, yes, that is, like, sure, you would have to do that, but at the same time, like, okay, it's not the same situation, but, like, Woodbury, like, okay, they're fine. So clearly it's not like there's just millions of walkers, like, overwhelming any, like, static position in this area. Like, sure, there are a lot of them, but at the same time, like, okay, if you found, like, like a big building, if you found almost any kind of, like, secure position, then they would have been fine. Yeah. They would have been able to, like, have a base. I mean, maybe they couldn't, like, they would still have to go, like, get supplies and stuff, but, like, they'd have somewhere to put Lori and Hershel and, like, the more vulnerable people.
Right.
Like, Rick, I think he's just dumb. I don't think he's been, like, since he became their dictator, since he declared himself tyrant of the group, like, I don't think it just seems like he has absolutely no plan. Like, they're, like, noting on a map, like, okay, this herd is going this way, this herd's over here, we can try to, like, get past this herd's predicted movement, before it comes through this way, based on what we've seen, but, so, like, but it didn't occur to Rick to, like, I don't know, look on the map for, like, oh, here's a prison. Oh, here's this, here's that, here's this, here's that. Here's, like, somewhere that would be pretty secure. Right. Oh, look, here's some, like, are you kidding me? There's got to be places on the map everywhere. Like, oh, this would be a good, But he appears to have, like, steadfastly refused any kind of plan or, strategy. He's just like, we gotta find canned goods. Canned goods are everything. Carl, we gotta find canned goods for your mother. And it's like, are you, like... Okay, I don't think Rick should have declared himself dictator. That's kind of insane. He's done a terrible job for 8 months. That is so much longer than it seems like it should have been.
We were incredibly surprised by the 8 months. Yeah. So we wanted to, like, cross-reference this. So we found a timeline.
We found even more shocking revelations.
Right. And this is on Nerdist.com. And so it gives a timeline of, like, major episodes and days from the outbreak. So, like, the outbreak, which we don't actually see in this show, that's in Fear the Walking Dead, is considered day 1.
Right.
When Rick wakes up at the beginning of the show.
Yep.
That is day 59.
Mm-hmm.
He was asleep for almost 2 months of this.
I don't know how he, like, survived.
I don't either.
Like, how long... Because, like, I would, like... And, I mean, they just don't see... They don't say on this timeline. But, like, okay, which day did Shane leave him in the hospital? Because, like...
At what point did the outbreak
I guess there were
bad?
those webisodes where, like, that creepy nurse was, like, kind of keeping... But, I think they just did
You're
that
right.
after the fact to
so
kind
too.
of, like, explain, like, these things in the first episode. Like, how does the hospital have, like, electricity and water?
Yeah.
And, like, how is Rick alive? Like, who's been feeding him? Like, I mean, because, like, depending on what day that was that Shane... Because, like, they give the impression that things fell apart somewhat quickly. Like, it didn't take that long before, like, things in Georgia, anyway, kind of disintegrated and the military started killing everybody, you know? And it's like, so, wow, like, I mean, I feel like 2 weeks or something is, like, how, like, at least how long it was after Shane left Rick in the hospital. And, like, in between that point and when he woke up. I feel like it had to have been at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is, like... Yeah, I guess it was just the nurse, like, intravenously feeding him or something. Because otherwise, like... Otherwise, I don't see how he could possibly be alive by the time he woke up.
So, the end of season 1... is day 64. So,
Wow.
so that is,
wow.
That is literally 5 days.
That means that, like, because I think there were 6 episodes in the first season. So that means that it's basically a day an episode.
So from when Rick woke up to the end of season 1, and it is a short season.
It is.
But it's literally a work week.
Yes.
It's 5 whole days. And we know that he spent at least one of those with Morgan.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah, he was only, I mean, and then, like, in Atlanta. So, like, it might have only been, like, 3 days.
Yeah, that he
when he actually reunited with Lori and Carl. Like, depending on how long they were in Atlanta before, like, they got back to the quarry. Because, like, that was a whole episode.
Right.
You know? So, like, it like 2 days easily could have been, like, before he reunited with them.
And he just went back to Atlanta the next day, like...
Yeah, which is really kind of like... Yeah. It's like, wow, okay.
And the most shocking time jump of all.
Oh, I just want to mention...
Oh, go ahead.
Like, oh, no, it's okay. But, like, and I think we mentioned this in season 1, but, okay. Rick makes a big stink to Dr. Bruce Jenner at the CDC... about how...
Oh, yeah, they were at the CDC for at least a day, too.
You're right, yeah.
So he was, like, at the quarry for, like, max 2 days.
Yeah. Okay. He makes a big deal to Bruce Jenner that, like, you don't know how bad it is out there. Like, when Rick thinks that, like, they're safe in the CDC.
Right.
And, like, he's, like, he's kind of, like, he's, like, so relieved. But I think he's like, you gotta let us stay here. Like, you don't know how incredible this is. Like, that we're safe now.
You
and
don't
like,
know what it's like out
like,
there.
You don't know Dr. Bruce Jenner.
Right, because he says this to Hershel, too.
Yeah, and yeah, that's true. He also gives the same little self-pitying speech and simultaneously self-aggrandizing to Hershel when they're on the farm.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy crap.
You've been out there for a work week.
Yeah, like... And I mean, okay, depending on when this timeline starts measuring, like, the episode day...
Right.
It might have only been 4 days.
It might have.
Before he's giving his speech at the CDC. Like, it might have been 4 days.
That's just
and
crazy.
Rick is, like, portraying it like he's
preaching,
been on the road.
like
you know, like, it's been,
when
like,
everyone
this,
else
like...
has been dealing with this for 2 months before.
They've actually, like anyone else saying this would make sense. Because, like, yeah, they've actually been dealing with it for the entire time. But Rick is, like, barely awoken at this point. Like, he's still, like, got eye boogers. He's still asleep. He's, like, you know what I mean? Like... Wow, that is just a shocking revelation that it's been that little time, and he's, like, acting like he's, like, so grizzled by the apocalypse at this point. And it's like, well, not really. Shane's been taking care of everybody
for 2 months.
For this entire time while you've been snoozing, Rick. Anyway, that's just...
So, from the end of season 1 to the end of season 2. So, this is basically the entire time they're on the farm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is 19 days. It goes from day 64 to day 83.
Yes.
Not even a full 20 days. So, in those 19 days, they lost Sophia. Mm-hmm. They went to the farm. Hershel was, like, not going to let them stay. They did surgery on Carl. And he recovered.
How did he recover? How did, like, everyone recover from their, like, injuries so quickly?
In less than 3 weeks. Maggie and Glenn, like, fall in love, and Hershel is, like, says, like, oh, you can basically have my daughter. Like,
like, he's like, okay, I give my blessing, you're married now.
Do you have such low hopes for your daughter that she's ever going to find someone?
I think so.
Like, 2 weeks, and you're like, yep, you're married.
They have just been like, it's real. Like, we thought Lori, it was like 6 weeks.
Right. Lori flip-flops about if she likes Shane or not.
Well, whether to kill him or not.
You're right.
Like, what, 3 times?
3 times.
In, like, 10 days, maybe? Depending on, like, I mean, and then she flip-flopped, like, whether she wants him to leave the group several times, like, in the 5 preceding days, maybe. Like, this is insane.
So, I'm also thinking about from, like, when Rick wakes up, day 59... to the end of season 2, 83. Right. So it's been 64 days. Or I'm sorry, 24 days.
Right,
just over 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And he didn't find Lori and everything right away. So, like, take away 2 days. So, like, 22 days. So, 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And in those 3 weeks, Shane went from, like, being his best friend to killing him.
Yes.
Like, that's a very fast...
It is. Yeah, it is very fast.
Man. And then season 3, when it starts, is day 300. So
which,
it's that's a little bit over a little bit over 8 months, because 8 months is 240 days. Mm-hmm. And this is 200 and...
Wait. 300? No, wait, what are you...
you're
what
right.
are you measuring from?
Day 300 minus 83.
Okay,
so,
sure, yeah.
So 217 days. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a little under 8 months.
Yeah. But still, yeah. Season 2 happened so fast.
So fast.
I mean, there was, like, so much happened.
3 weeks happened, and then we have...
This makes me more forgiving. This makes me slightly more forgiving about, like, them looking for Sophia for what felt like so long.
Because it was probably only a week.
Right. It was like, and it's like, okay, that's much more, it seemed like it was weeks. Mm-hmm. It seemed like it was like 3 or 4 weeks that they were, like, just hopelessly looking for long after there was any hope.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a little, like, okay, she's definitely dead by this point.
Right.
But at the same time, that makes me more forgiving of their, like, obsession with, like, getting her back.
And their whole, like... Do we kill Randall? Do we not kill Randall? Going back and forth, taking him out to the schoolyard.
I guess that was only a couple days.
That was very fast. Yeah.
So let's see. There was something else. I wanted to mention. So like, her and Hershel at one point towards the end of the season is like, I should have moved you guys into the farmhouse long ago. And it's like, you mean like 4 days ago or something? Like, wow. I mean,
it's the same when Maggie and Glenn are in the car and he's like, I love you. I should have told you a long time ago.
It's like, but it hasn't been that much
2 weeks ago? 14 days? Oh, okay.
And I mean, that was like the start of their relationship. Right. Yeah, that was like at most. Like, and like, he only like started getting worried that like, because, I mean, like, when he kind of broke up with her,
right.
Like, it was, like, because he was, like, oh, this, like, makes me, like, less able to survive because I'm worried about you, like, that kind of thing. And so it's, like, let's say, like, that's when he realized how serious it was, Let's say that's when he realized how serious, like, his feelings were.
It was probably only, like, 4 or 5 days.
Exactly. Max. That's probably what he's referring to as, like, when he... You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, somewhere around... Like, not even the beginning of their relationship, when they were more, like, casual about it, When she was just like, sure, whatever, I'll have sex with you, Yeah.
So...
Wow.
So during these 8 months, they've just basically been going in circles, going from one house to the next, trying to, like, find a place to stay and, like, stay away from the herds. Mm-hmm. And so Rick and Daryl go hunting, and they're walking along a railroad track. and they just happen to walk by the prison.
It's like,
and
oh, wow,
look,
it's right
there's a
there.
Prison.
Isn't that perfect? Shouldn't
Hershel have known about this? Like,
yeah. Oh, and I mean, so this is another minor thing, but I was thinking about this. Okay, so after season 1, they are going to Fort Benning, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like 150 miles. Right. I think they say about 150. Okay, so that's our frame of reference. So then they take off, but they get stuck on the highway, which seems like only very maybe close. 20 miles or something, you know? It doesn't seem like they're that far away from Atlanta when they get stuck, and then they get completely sidetracked and end up at the farm, which is like right there, which is like a couple miles from, from the highway.
I mean, Otis said it was like a mile when he shot the deer.
Okay, yeah. And so, Rick has been obsessively calling Morgan on the radio and leaving him notes up until they left. Right?
Yeah, until they got to the farm, I think, yeah.
But why? Why did he stop leaving him notes and like...
That's a great question.
I just didn't really think of thank you. But it's like, they really weren't that far. Like,
no, they weren't.
Maybe it's too far for the radios or something, but like... I just feel like he kind of was just like, well, I'm done with that. Right. Even though he'd been so obsessed with contacting him before that.
He made so he did it for 3 days?
And he was like, maybe we'll see you at Fort Benning. Right. And it's like, but he never told him that they never actually ended up at Fort Benning.
He was so obsessed with telling him,
he never left him another note saying like, oh, we're not actually,
Right. And so he was leaving messages for Morgan at dawn for 3 days. And that's it.
I mean, and I guess you're right. Maybe it was because it was just such a short period of time, and then he was just like, okay, I guess that was a bad idea. Like, he got distracted by other things, maybe, but like, yeah. Anyway, because it's like they never really got that far away from Atlanta.
Maybe he realized that would like tell other people where they are.
Yeah.
Like
it's very possible.
People that killed everyone in the nursing home.
You're right. That's very possible that was like part of his motivation.
But there was nothing ever said, like explained about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've been going in circles. They happened to stumble upon the prison, but they're walking on a train track, and I could be wrong, but I really, really don't think that a prison would have a train track that close, because if a prisoner escaped, they could easily jump on a train, and no one would
really not be a great situation.
It really, really would.
Because it's like they'd only have to like run for like, I don't know, maybe like 50 yards or something to the train. Like, it's right there.
It's very close.
There's like a little bridge over the little river there. Like, so they wouldn't even have to like cross that.
Yeah.
Like, to get to the train track. Yeah. And I mean, if this is an active, like, so 2 possibilities occurred to me is that, okay, this is a really, I mean, and this is not the case based on what we see of the prison, but like, okay, maybe this is an old prison that used to be next to a train line because, like, that's how it would be supplied and prisoners would be brought in and stuff. So, like, okay, but it's not.
Right.
It's not, like, it's not an old antique prison. It's, like, maybe, like, 1940s or something. It's, like, kind of old, but it's not, like, old.
Yeah.
Like, this is, like, they had roads. Like, this, so they're, like, so that can't be it. And then possibility 2 is that this is a really old, unused train line. But that still, like, doesn't really, like, no, because it looks like it's in fine condition. Like, it looks like it's still functional.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be overgrown and stuff if it was just totally disused.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like, well, that's not great. That, like, prisoners could potentially escape, and then they just have to make, like, a short dash and, like, try to catch a train. Because, like, trains run on schedules. Like, they could just, in the yard, memorize when the train's going to be coming by, and just get out of the fence and make a dash for the train and jump on there, possibly before anyone noticed they were gone. Like, it's a terrible, terrible system. And it's just, I think it's just, like, convenient so that they can be walking on the... Because, like, somebody on the show had a fetish for, like, train line, like, railroad tracks, like in the Terminus storyline. How it's like, oh, we're walking on this train track, and it's just, oh god, these train tracks. Oh god, we need more train tracks, endless train tracks.
Okay,
Yes, but do you see, like, don't you feel that way about the Terminus storyline?
I mean, no, but
okay, I feel
hate
that way.
Terminus.
Oh yeah,
so
no, I know you despise. Okay, that's perfectly okay. That's how yeah.
So Rick decides that they're gonna make the prison their new base camp, and
he's like, this is perfect. Yeah,
and so they get into the yard and they clear the yard and they spend the night in the prison yard, so just like outside, and they make this fire, and Hershel like asks Beth to sing, and she's like, "Oh, no one wants to hear that."
And that's true.
This must have been like the actress was like, "I want to sing," like, and because she's several times.
I think she might have been a singer before, right. Like when they casted her. Like I could be misremembering, but I think it was like she was a singer and not an actress originally, something like that.
And so she sings several times in this season.
Oh, and every time I just want to tear my skin off and shove it into my ears.
So we didn't know this on the wiki how apparently it's a Irish drinking song.
I guess,
and that's why it didn't sound.
I thought it was like
I
thought it was like a mournful like funeral dirge or something. Like, yeah.
So the next day they decide to clear. So like they're in like the grassy part of the prison yard. Now they're gonna go to like, I don't know what the other term for it is. Like the cemented area.
Right.
There's
like
a separate fence. And some walkers come out that have on riot gear.
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome. Like,
okay, so no. I go ahead. Yeah.
I really like it because it like presents more of a challenge for them, and it seems like a lot more realistic that like these were prison guards and they're in riot gear, and I just feel like the group has to be a little more like strategic with how they kill them, and they
tactical,
can't.
But
yes, they can't just like hit them over the head with a bat and they would die.
Yes, so I have much to say about these walkers because these are my favorite walkers on the show, right? The riot gear walkers. I think that I wish they had more like this. Like not specifically riot gear, but because like these walkers have like it makes sense in the context of the situation. Some I'm going to call them like gimmick walkers, right? Which are like special ones that we encounter throughout the show. A lot of them, I feel like it's kind of like borderline goofy. Like how that, you know what I mean? Because like the examples are like, I mean, it's in later seasons, but like, okay, like the examples that are immediately coming to mind are like at the Alexandria part of the storyline when they're like looking for supplies. And they're in that store with a helicopter on the roof, and it just suddenly collapses. One of the walkers on the roof falls through the roof, and he's like his guts get torn out, and he's like hanging like they're like it's a bungee cord, and it's like and it's like okay, I mean that's fine, but it's like kind of too gimmicky and too like that's sure that would happen like kind of a thing, you know. It's also not a threat to them, of course. Like it's it's just like, oh, look at this, and then like the other one that's like I feel very much like that is like when it's later than that, when like during the Negan storyline when Rick is in the garbage people's enclave, and like they put him in a pit with like their gladiator walker that they like execute. They're not good. That they execute people with, and they've like armored it and like put a helmet with like spikes and stuff, like on his head. They've like welded like all this armor onto his brain to make him like, and like spikes coming out of his body to like make him hard to kill.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's also like something that like, it's very contrived, and it's like something that humans made, and it's just not as interesting as like, I think they should have had more walkers like the riot gear walkers, because they've because it's like that makes sense in the context of the situation. There's nothing like hard to believe about that at all. Like, sure, they were just wearing armor, and now they're armored.
Right.
You know, like, of course, like, they're just, but they look very cool, and they're very dangerous, and, like, I think I especially like the one who has a gas mask on his face, like, that comes after Rick, like, and, he, like, pulls the gas mask off, and the whole face comes off.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good, like, for people who really like crazy, like, gory stuff and, like, crazy prosthetics on the walkers and stuff, you know, I think that's really cool, but it also just makes sense, and it doesn't seem contrived, and I think it looks good, and it feels natural in the situation, unlike some others. And so, yeah, I really like these ones. I wish they had, like, a couple others, like, they had, like, walkers who got burned, and so they're all, like, skeletal and, like, partly burned, but they're still alive and things like that. But I kind of wish they would do more, like, really getting ahead, but, like, you know, the Whisperers should have, like, done crazy stuff to their walkers, like, put armor on them and stuff like that.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, but, like, anyway, I think it's kind of a missed opportunity that they didn't, like, get more creative with, like, the types of walkers who would logically be, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we never really see, like, very many, like, armored, like, soldiers or anything.
Right.
Like, which you would think there would be tons of them.
Right.
Like, there were a lot of, like, National Guard, you know, who would be, like, wearing armor. And, I mean, okay, maybe not their faces, but, like, how these Riot Gear walkers have, like, the face shields on their helmets. Okay, so then, like, anyway, but these walkers are excellent. I give them an A+. A++. Yeah.
So they clear this part of the yard, and they get in, and they get into cell block C, and Rick gets the keys from a walker that he puts down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do want to just mention that, like, when they're defeating the armored walkers, Maggie, they're really, like you said, like, when they can't just, like, hit them over the head or just, like, knife them in the face, they're like, oh my god, what do we do? And it's like, well, you know, you could, like, trip them, like, sweep their legs or something, like, I mean, or just like step back and, like, take a few seconds to evaluate, and then, like, you know, and like, they're really slow, but
Maggie, like, stabs under the helmet.
Under like the face shield, like, through the throat.
So proud of herself.
She's like, oh my god, this is it. Yeah, she's, like, really proud. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, yes, but at the same time, like, well, sure, that's, like, the exposed portion of them. Like, naturally, that's what you'd go for. It seems kind
just
of
hitting
obvious.
them, like, on their helmet doesn't do
like,
much.
Like, somebody, I can't remember if it's T-Dog or somebody, like, like, just hits them on the head and is like, oh my god, it's not working.
Right.
And it's like, well, sure, of course it's not working.
So this jail is, like, it's pretty lucky that it's old enough that it uses actual keys. And it's not just, like automatic.
Yeah, like, if it was all based on, like, electronic scans, you know, like, they'd have a really hard time, like, making this into a home. Yeah.
So they get into cell block C, and they take out any of the walkers that are, like, in their cells there. And this is so gross. Like, Carl starts showing an interest in Beth. So like, best case scenario, Carl is, like, 11 now.
Yeah, he's pretty young. I think, like, what do you think? Do you think the actor is older than the character?
I think he's a little older.
Because, I mean, I feel like he must be.
Yeah.
But just like the character is still really young. Like, I mean, he could be in puberty. Maybe he is.
He did change a lot between.
You're right. He does look a lot.
And now.
Yeah.
But that could just be the actor, because I think he's older.
Right.
And best case scenario, Beth is at youngest 16.
Yeah.
Like, that's, come on, dude. Like.
Yeah. No,
wow.
I agree.
Wow.
That's I mean, sure, he doesn't have a lot of options.
Right, he must see, like, Glenn and Maggie, and he's like, I just gotta take my first opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, he's like, well, I mean...
And Sophia's gone.
Yeah, like, he's like, well, the only age-appropriate girl is dead now, so...
Yeah.
You know, you don't think they were, like...
No,
oh,
you're right.
But, like, within, like, I don't know, 3 years, maybe,
like,
depending
I
on how old she is.
thought you were gonna say Beth was the only age-appropriate, and I was like,
no, you're right, yeah. I was thinking Sophia was the only, like, truly age-appropriate one
you're
for
totally
him.
right.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Lori talks to Hershel about some fears that she has, and she's afraid that, like, the baby is going to be a stillborn, and it's going to be born a walker, and that
eat her from the inside out,
and that Rick and Carl hate her, and she even says that, like, she kind of wishes that she had have died on the farm.
So this makes me just... Lori, I think, really just wants her whole family dead. I mean, on some level, because, like, okay, when Carl was shot, she was, like, she was, like, kind of saying to Rick, like, maybe it's better if he doesn't survive, because this world is so messed up and horrible. Okay, so bam, like, she basically kind of had those feelings of, like, better off dead about Carl. Then when she found out she was pregnant, she was like...
She gets the,
she was
the
like...
Plan B pills.
Oh, and I mean, this is just something I was thinking about, very minor, but, like, getting the Plan B pills actually makes a lot more sense considering how... I mean, it might still be too late for them to have an effect when she took them, depending on when she got pregnant, but, like, that's actually a lot less stupid that she tried to take them to end her pregnancy. Like, considering how, like, now that we know how little time...
You're right.
It's like, I mean, it's still probably too late. Like, it's still probably too late for that to work.
It's probably been about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which, okay,
but, like, I thought it was, like, a lot more ridiculous than that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just something I thought about, where it's like, okay, not as stupid.
Well,
like,
okay, so we had talked about then that, like, it might be too soon for her to take a pregnancy test.
True, yeah.
And it has been, I mean, it's maybe at most 2 weeks, which is when it would show up on a pregnancy test. But, like, why was she questioning it? Like, because if at most it's been 2 weeks, that would have been, like, the first day of her missed period.
Right. Like, she couldn't have had any symptoms. She couldn't, like, I mean, that's a good point. Like, you're welcome. Like, what spurred her, because apparently before, like, the idea that she could get pregnant just, like, never crossed her mind from having unprotected sex. Like, apparently that just, like, was not something she was considering at all. And so then, like, is it that she was, like, a day late? And was like, oh my God. And, like, I mean, because it's like, really, like, what made her consider that? Like, I think that's true. Like, what was it that made her really, like, suspect she was pregnant? Like, that's really early.
Yeah.
That's, like, the earliest she could find out, And
then I guess maybe Glenn went back, like, 2 days later, so...
I guess.
Maybe...
Like, with the pregnancy test, you mean? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Plan B would work if it was an established... pregnancy. I think
it's too late.
I don't.
But no, wait, because it's like morning after Plan B abortion pills, in order of like how effective, like how
it was morning after pills, right?
It actually said, that's what's weird, because they call them abortion pills, but it said Plan B on the Plan B, like on the package. So like I don't know if that's like a disconnect between like the script and the props department, or if like they don't know the difference, or if or what, like, or if they're just speaking in general terms and not being too specific, because like
I'd say it's probably that one.
Okay, I think that's probably right too, because it still is too late for Plan B.
Yeah,
like it's more forgivable because it's like, okay, it hasn't been that long, but I'm pretty sure that's still too late. Like, I don't think Plan B is going to have an effect at that point.
Right.
Yeah, you got to take it sooner than that.
So, during her talk with Hershel, she basically, like, makes him promise that if the baby is dead or if she dies during childbirth, that he'll kill...
both of... Or one or both
whoever
of them. Whoever
is dead.
Any undead involved. Yeah.
And then they decide to, like, go further into the prison and start clearing the hallways and more cell blocks and stuff like that. And they take like T-Dog, Maggie, Glenn, Daryl, Rick, and Hershel. They decide to leave Carl back to watch the other women.
Right.
Excluding Maggie.
Yeah.
And that's just so dumb. Like, if Carl's getting so much better with a gun, which, I mean...
This would be a reasonable... Oh, I think he is, I think he is. And this would be, like, a reasonable time to give him more practice. Right. Because it's not, like, the most dangerous situation, you know? And like,
Hershel,
everybody else will be there.
They should be protecting Hershel.
Yeah.
Like, he's the oldest.
He's
he's
old,
the oldest,
infirm, he's the most, he's the doctor, he's the only one who has medical.
Yes.
Since they cleverly got Patricia eaten.
Yeah.
Like, he's the only one who has any medical experience. Like, he's pretty essential, and he's old and weak and infirm. Mm-hmm. And, like, really, just leave him behind. I mean...
But they don't protect him. Of course they take him with.
They have to make him Dale 2.0.
And in one of the hallways, he, like, steps over a walker that is not moving.
Yes. This is another situation where it's like,
a stealth walker.
Exactly. What we call stealth walkers. And then there's, there's stealth walkers, and then there's a subset of stealth rather the other way around. There's special forces walkers, right? Who are have unusual skills and intelligence. Mm-hmm. And then stealth walkers are a subset of special forces walkers. Mm-hmm. Like the one who shimmied under the garage door was a special force. Right. Because it's wait, most of them can't do that. But for some reason this one's able to perform special tasks and seems more intelligent. But anyway, so when they're going through the hallways, Hershel passes over what just looks like a corpse. Mm-hmm. And I mean, really, you would think that they would be let's make sure that any corpse we see has a self-inflicted, just to be safe, just bash its head in, just to be safe, just hit it really hard, just to test, because if this person didn't shoot themselves in the head or something like that, then it's a walker. Now everybody knows. Now the secret's out that no matter how someone dies, they're infected and will reanimate unless it's a head wound. So they should be more careful. It doesn't make sense that, because in the comics, the undead are basically divided into two groups, and they call them roamers and lurkers. Now, roamers roam around and form herds and stuff.
That's the traditional walker.
They they're active, and they just kind of wander around looking for stuff. And then lurkers play dead, and they just kind of hang around, and they don't really, they just lurk in place waiting for prey to come by. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, but in the show, 99.9% of the zombies, the walkers, are essentially roamers. They just walk around. Yeah. They're just kind of in search of stuff, and sometimes they'll just kind of be not so active, but they're still they're not playing dead. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're active. They kind of stand there, or they walk around. I think it's this episode where we see Michonne going into that store and doing her ninja stuff and darting around and being edgy and darting around and making her edgy face, and her edgy face.
And I guess I totally forgot to mention Michonne. I guess it makes sense that she's so obsessed with Andrea, because
yes, that kind of explained it a bit more to me, because later on she's obsessed with Andrea. Andrea is kind of I can take her or leave. Yeah. She's no, I'm obsessed with the governor. Basically. Yeah. She's not as committed to this sister relationship thing Michonne, Thelma and Louise.
Michonne is very,
and it's that makes more sense.
They've been together for
that it's
8
been
months
8
so far.
months. Yes,
it does make more sense.
To me, that kind of explained it more. Mm-hmm. Where it's okay, it's been a long ass time. It makes more sense that she'd have such a strong connection slash obsession with Andrea at this point. They've been together for a really long time. Right. Yeah, and so that is also going on in this episode. Nothing terribly important happens other than Andrea's been sick over this time. Mm-hmm. And she's and she's Michonne's taking care of her and stuff. But anyway, getting back to so the walkers, we see some of them just kind of standing in this convenience store or whatever, restaurant, whatever it was, when Michonne's darting around and killing them. So it's so those ones are just kind of lurking there. They're not actively wandering around or anything. Mm-hmm. They're still standing there. They're still reactive. They're not playing dead. Right. Because if all of them are capable of playing dead is a good way to get human prey. Because people just walk right near them. Mm-hmm. And so Hershel encounters this one who's just playing dead, essentially. It's not reacting to their advance at all. until he gets close enough for it to bite him on the leg.
Well, yeah, he's literally stepping over
Yes, exactly. It waits for the perfect moment to get him and take a bite out
and
of him. And
it takes a bite out of his calf.
And it's like, well, that's convenient.
Yeah.
And it's like, so this is what happened to Dale in the comics, where, like, he gets bitten on the leg. Yeah, and it's like, since Dale is dead now, Hershel becomes Dale from the comics. Sort of like how Carol, like, becomes a badass, partly because, like, Andrea's not with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, oh, no, go ahead, yeah. So basically, they're like, oh, my God, like, Hershel's been bitten.
Right, and they, like, quickly grab Hershel and run to, like,
some walkers, I think, appear out of nowhere and start advancing on them, yeah.
So they, like, get him to the closest safe area possible. And
the cafeteria.
Yes, and Rick just, like, takes the axe that he was using to kill walkers, so probably not the best.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like,
it's not the best weapon to use.
Like, that's actually a
really
good point.
Do you want to clean it off?
Yeah, holy crap. Like, that might not help at all.
It might not.
Because it's like, well, now you've just infected, like, the area where you've amputated it.
Yeah, he cuts off Hershel's leg from basically, like, the knee down.
Yeah.
And amputates it, and Hershel passes out from, like, blood loss and shock, obviously.
Sure.
And, I mean, Rick was smart enough to use his belt as a tourniquet first. And then Daryl's like, get down, because he sees some movement behind them.
Yeah, these guys just, like, all pop up out of nowhere, like, from, like, behind the, like, the lunch line, like, the, you know, whatever you call that.
And they're, like, in prison outfits, so it's just assumed at this point that they are prisoners that somehow got locked in there and survived.
Yeah. And one of them says, holy shit, and has a crazy mustache.
He does have a crazy mustache.